Hi, Silver. Welcome to what matters to me as well. I'm Skylar Lamar, and I'm the Annual Alumni Instructor for the Student Alumni Association. Um, so personal background on the event is a partnership between the UCI Advisory Council of Campus Climate, Culture, and Inclusion, the Student Alumni Association, and the UCI Alumni Association. The event series began in 2016 and revolves around the idea of UCI alumni coming back and sharing about their lives since UCI and their individual diverse pathways, which have all led to different paths of success as students and others, and hopefully take away from. Our hope is that the stories and advice tonight will shed light on different ways to understand life, work, and leadership. So for those who don't know about the Student Alumni Association, we plan events that let students and alumni connect in more comfortable ways and foster connections. If you are interested in more events like this, whether on the student or alumni side, our next big event is this with Gears, which is May 20th, and it's from 6 to 7:30. So if you want any more information about that, you can look at our Instagram, which is at CISNA, or if you want to ask any SAA members, a lot of us are wearing these t-shirts, feel free to ask any of them sitting at your tables. So for tonight, how it's going to go is the first 45 minutes to an hour is the interview portion, and then there'll be a 10 to 15 minute Q&A, so think of questions you might want to ask, and then after that will be a networking and free dinner. So I will introduce our moderator, Shiksa Khalili. She got her bachelor's, master's, and PhD from UCI in sociology and has a master's in ethnic studies from San Francisco State. She's an organizational architect and strategist. She currently serves as the Associate Vice Chancellor of Administration and Chief of Staff to the Vice Chancellor of UCI Health Affairs. Her extensive leadership experience is rooted in nonprofit work, with 15 years of experience leading the Cal Earth Institute, which is an international nonprofit foundation educational research center as to minutes housing equity. And she will introduce our guest for tonight. So all that being said, please welcome Ms. Shifa Khalili.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. They asked me for a bio, and I realized I sound like a very serious bio, but it's not my UCI bio, which I know is bio. So my UCI bio is that I graduated in 2006 as an undergrad. I was RA at Sierra. I was a campus tour guide. I was in the social science honors program, and I was in travel summer. So I was super involved. I studied a lot, and I just loved my time here. So, and one of the highlights of my time here was that time being RA at Sierra, and that's how I know Ivory. So we've known each other since 2004. I know it very young at the breast, but so when they asked Ivory to speak, he reached out to me and asked me to come and be the moderator, and I was like, I don't know what we're going to talk about in front of everybody, but we're about to find out. So we're going to let that go. So I'm going to read Ivory's series final, and then we're going to turn it to what it really needs to be at. So, okay. Ivory Floyd is an Emmy-nominated television writer and UCI alum. Currently, he's a staff writer on Disney Junior's upcoming preschool program, Kindergarten the Musical, as well as the upcoming HBO Max Cartoon Network program, IYANU, Child of Wonder.
Please watch.
Prior to these projects, he worked as a staff writer for Netflix's Emmy Award-winning animated preschool program, Ada to a Scientist, and has also written freelance for Netflix, Ridley Jones, as well as the movies The Penguins of Madagascar. Outside of television, Ivory has also written episodes of Wondery's podcast program, Little Stories Everywhere, and was amazing. So this is my dear friend Ivory Floyd. Now we're going to go into the question. Looking around the platform. So Ivory, why don't you tell us a little about the steps that you took to get here where you are today? A little bit about your journey from UCI all the way up where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. My journey in high school, had no clue what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I hated math classes. I wanted to do something with writing. So one day I saw on TV, it was a show where writers were like pitching stories to each other. And I was like, oh, you can actually do this for like a living and get paid for this? Like, I want to do that. So went to UCI, was very involved with like Mesa Court, the Cross Cultural Center, with Reach, where I met Shifta. And then we worked together at Mesa Court, at Sierra, that dorm. And then after that, just, I didn't know how I was going to get in, but I was just reading all the scripts I could, writing anything that I could on my own. It was all terrible, but just trying to like make myself better and better and better. And at one point, one of my friends told me about the Nickelodeon writing program. So I entered the first year, didn't get in, entered the second year, managed to get in. And it was a year-long program. If anyone's interested in screenwriting, I highly recommend it because they also pay you for an entire year. And a lot of these programs do not. So just that's a cheap plug for them. After that, it was just like, you know, years of working day jobs. Like I would work at eHarmony. It's really bad. It's just not a great. The service is fine. Working there was. I worked at like nursing schools. I was driving a truck for Boston Market. Like just like anything, just to like pay the bills. But at the same time, I was always like writing and honing my craft. Eventually, one day, one of my friends from the Nick Writer program, she contacted me. She was like, "Hey, I'm running this show called A to a Scientist. It's being produced by the Obamas. We need writers. Do you want to maybe write for it?" And I was like, "Yes, please. Yeah, I would like to do that. Yes, I want to go to there." So I worked for them, and yeah, they just kind of just kept going from there. It was like just in the bio where I went from writing freelance to being a staff writer to writing freelance on other shows to coming on to like other shows after that because people knew me and they were like, "Hey, we heard that you need a writer. This guy might be a good fit." And yeah, ever since then, I've just been on deadline ever since.
It's so interesting. I even remember in the early years, I mean, you were very clear from even when we were undergrad that you knew that's what you wanted to do. And it's interesting to meet someone that early on kind of has that sense, even though you didn't know the path, how you're going to get there. I thought you really, from the beginning, were just like, okay, well, I'm going to find a path, right? You kept persisting, even though it wasn't such a clear linear, right? There's no clear linear path to get into this industry. So.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And that's one of the great things about it, actually, because people always ask like, "Oh, how do I get in? Should I do this and this?" There's a million different ways. You could go the route of becoming like a writer's assistant and being in the room and just letting people know like, "Hey, I want to one day be in the writer's room," and they'll bookmark that. Like a showrunner will bookmark that, and they'll often give their writer's assistants like, here's a script for yourself. Now you have a credit. Now you have something on your IMDb, and that can get you more work, that can get you representation, and that can really get the ball moving. The route that I took was entering contests and fellowships, which even if you don't win, if you enter in a screenwriting contest and you get like in the top 3 and you're contacting a manager and they're asking like, "Okay, well, what have you done?" Well, I got the top 3 for like the screenwriting contest. That could look really good for them. And they might be like, "Oh, okay, this person might have something." You can look into it. You can grind away. There's like a million different ways to get in. There's no one set path.
What do you think's been sort of the key to your success that sort of, you know, it seems like persistence is one, but what else do you feel like has made a big difference for you?
I would say the 3 big things that I always tell people, because I'll have young writers come up to me like, "Hey, what's the secret sauce?" The secret sauce is really simple and complicated at the same time. First, you have to work hard. You cannot sandbag, because even if you're writing a cartoon about like a cat and a dog who hate each other, this cartoon about a cat and a dog who hate each other costs millions of dollars to make. So you have to come correct. You have to be serious about it. Even if you write something goofy, that's fine. For instance, if you're writing a spec for It's Always Sunny, you should watch every episode, read any script as you can, immerse yourself in the show, like know it inside and out. So you have to work hard. Second off, you have to have fun. If you've ever seen a movie where it's like, you can tell like, "Oh man, this actor looks like they just want to leave right now," or, "Oh man, this looks like just like a cash grab. Like this is just for a paycheck." It's very palpable. So when someone is passionate about what they're doing, that comes through also. And the last thing is, don't be a jerk. Like, it's really that simple. Like, don't be a jerk, because especially for animation, that circle is smaller than you think, where, oh, like this person used to work with this person, or this person knows this person. So it's not, you don't have to be like a smoozy person who's like doing like the finger gun thing all the time, because like I'm not that guy. But if you're someone who like can't listen, there's argumentative, or just like not pleasant to be around, it's going to be hard to find work than if you're just yourself and you're just cool to be around. So be yourself, unless you're like not a nice person, to be like a nicer person, a nicer version of yourself. Yeah. Oh, and also save your money. Yeah, save your money. Don't blow it on stuff. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe how your time at UCI helped you to get where you are, or how it has impacted, things that you still take away from the time that you were here in your career now, even though it's not necessarily connected? How is it impacting?
Yeah, totally. I would say a big part of that was like when we were working in Reach at the Cross Cultural Center or at Sierra, because a lot of it was just teamwork and learning to collaborate and working with different personalities. Because when you guys are in writers' rooms, you're going to be around those people like all the time. Like you're going to see them every day, hours and hours and hours, on the clock, off the clock, all the time. And if you all get along, it's awesome. Like I made a lot of good friends from writers' rooms that I've been in just because we all get along. And being able to collaborate, being able to listen, that's so important. And that's definitely one of the big things I took away from my time at UCI.
Is it always? Or
that's a good question. Yeah.
I feel like it's the one that probably something too about getting along with people that you don't get along. You're going to disagree a lot, and how do you take feedback? I mean, that's probably good.
Oh, yeah. Like, you have to have thick skin in that regard. You're constantly going to be getting notes from, like, the network, notes from, like, your bosses. And, most of the time, notes are great. Sometimes there'll be a note, and you'll be like, this doesn't make sense. Like, wait, but no, like, doesn't make sense. And, like, you have to be able to articulate, like, okay, here's my counterpoint to that. Or be like, okay, I see what they're saying. Let me try to finesse this in a way that makes sense to me, too. I would say in terms of, like, everyone being friends, of course, there are going to be, like, personalities. From my experience, the folks who are like those really difficult people to work with, they usually aren't in your room for very long. They kind of get weeded out because the machine has to keep going. Like, you're on a schedule. It has to keep going. Like, if one person is holding everything up, at one point, the show, it doesn't matter how talented they are, like, the show is going to be like, okay, this is not working and it's bringing everyone else down. Let's take this person out and try to bring somebody else in.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of maybe the difficulties along the journey, some of the obstacles that you came up against, and kind of how you overcame?
Yeah, I would say one biggest difficulties is that getting to like where I'm at, it's not fast and it's not easy. There is no set path. And I know a lot of folks who get discouraged because they'll be like a year or two out of college and they'll be like, oh man, I really thought that I'd be working at a studio by now, or I thought I'd be like have something produced by now. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. You just have to be persistent. You have to surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you all the right ways. And also, you are all in a really good position right now where if you want to get into screenwriting, my big suggestion would be find other people who also want to get into that job and read each other's work. Even if it's completely, totally different, like if you write horror and you write comedy and you write rom-coms and you write sci-fi, read each other's stuff, critique it. It's the only way you're going to get better, especially if it sucks. Your first stuff is going to suck. My stuff was terrible, like when I first started, but it will get better, but you have to put it out.
What are some of your current goals, or what do you feel like, where are you headed next?
The long-term goal is to show run my own show. That's the long-term goal for, I would say, most people who are screenwriters who work in television, is to eventually have your own show. So one thing, that means you're like top of the food chain. So if you're the showrunner, you might be the one who picks the shows in the network. Or for example, on Ada Twist, we had a showrunner who was in the room who would like oversee scripts, and we had another showrunner who would oversee those scripts once they got to a certain point. Also picking out like, oh, what props do we use? What voice actors do we use? How does this look? How does this chair look? How does this dog look? Every little thing, the showrunner is all in charge of that. So it's a big job, but you also have that creative control as well.
Do you have any mentors now, or can you talk a little about mentorship and how you people who rely on mentoring?
Yeah, sure. I will say nobody does it alone. There's this misconception. I hate when people say like, "Oh, I got here all by my own 2 feet." I'm like, "No, you didn't." Like someone helped you out at some point. Like someone gave out an olive branch. For me, one of my big mentors, she doesn't know it yet, but it's Carrie Grant, who got me the job at A to a Scientist. And she's been great just because she leads by example, where she's very kind, she's very smart, but at the same time, it's like, okay, hey, this is how it is. Like, this is what the show's going to be. Because when you're in that position, it can't really be a democracy. It has to kind of be a monarchy. Like, you have to be like the person who like sometimes has to put your foot down. Like, okay, this is the show. This is what it is. So I would say like she's one of my big ones.
Do you what are some of your like really highlights so far in your career? Things that you're really proud of?
I would say a big highlight for me personally was, so when you get on the show, they make you sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, basically telling you, do not talk about this. Like, don't post it on social media. Don't tell your friends. We will come after you legally. That's why I can't really talk about the shows I'm on that much, besides like the title, like a vague description. Otherwise, like a dart will fly on my neck. Disney and a second one from HBO Max. Like, you can't talk about it. So I'd been working on A Twist throughout the pandemic, and I couldn't tell my friends about it. I couldn't tell my family about it because I was like, okay, if one person like posted on social media, I'm gonna be in a lot of legal trouble, so I can't do it. So when I was finally able to announce it, like, hey, I've been working on this thing while we've all been in lockdown, and it was really special because it was like an outpour of like folks who I hadn't seen for like years, like decades, like friends in college and high school, and like from like those random jobs I took at eHarmony. And they were all like, hey, you actually did it. And we would see you like scribbling at your desk and now you're getting paid for it. That's awesome. That was a really big highlight. And also just getting nominated for an Emmy. That was really cool.
Do you have him at your house? Is it by your members?
I do not have any. So I'm Emmy nominated, which means that I'm nominated for writing on the writing staff, but we didn't win for writing that year. Muppet Babies took it from us. You turned it. Yeah, my family was very salty about that. But the show itself won the Emmy, so the people at the top of the food chain, like executive producers, they actually get an Emmy. But they also brought it to the after party, so like we all have pictures with it, and they're actually pretty heavy. It's like a good like 30 pounds. But yeah.
All right. Well, that's still they should like do like a spring float.
Oh, I thought about taking it. We were all joking about like, okay, my car's like right there. No one's gonna know. They will know. You can't steal an Emmy. Yeah.
What do you think when we start opening up? I mean, there's other questions that I can ask, but I don't know what the answers. So, what would you guys like to hear more about? Anything that's already top of mind that you want to hear from my real, or it's all go back through my list? Who then? How that? Yeah, it's Gladys. Right. Did you know?
Hi. So famously, the industry that you're in rely a lot on networking. A lot of people just cut out for networking where they're very comfortable with it. They never thing on it. I naturally to them. Is that something that is a strong suit for you? And is that how do you get around that requirement?
That's a very good question because I'm not good at networking. Like, I'm bad. Like, if I'm at a party and I don't know anyone at the party, I'm like the guy sitting on the couch petting a dog for an hour, like me. Like, I'm that guy. Like, oh, I'm just going to stay over here. I don't know anyone here. When's my ride baby here? I'm that guy. But the thing I would say is networking can be a very good skill, but at the same time, you have to have the skills inside the room too. You can't just be good at like schmoozing. You also have, because a lot of people are like really good at schmoozing, But then like you read the stuff and it's like, oh yeah, this needs to work. But that's okay, you'll get there. I would say my biggest strength is I'll be like really specific about the things that I talk about. So I'll be like, hey, so did anyone watch John Wick 4? And if one person says yes, I'm like, cool, that's got my market. Did you like the Fast and Furious? Someone says yes, I'm like, okay, she's my buddy for this thing. And like, you kind of build that more organically. I'm not the finger guns guy. I'm the guy who's like, hey, who here likes anime? Like, we can talk about anime for an hour. And then once you get that conversation going, then it turns into like, oh, so what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on this. What about you? And then that's how like I kind of get around that.
Hey, how hard do you find it to introduce a lot of like social issues into your writing? Do you want to kind of approach that angle as well too?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I'm always pro for it. For instance, on Ada Twist, we have an episode about, Ada's autistic cousin, and like he's meeting her friends for the first time, and they're learning about like what autism is, and they're like, oh, okay, and no one's vilified, no one's like, oh, like you didn't know what this is, like you must be. It's like, oh no, you didn't know. I truly believe, especially in preschool, it's an opportunity to teach kids like lessons that you wish that you might have heard as a kid, where it's like, oh man, I wish like someone told me when I was 5, like it's okay for boys to cry, or if you're like a girl, like, oh no, you don't have to, like you can play with dolls, or you can play with like basketball, you play monster trucks, you can do whatever you want, like you're not in the box. So yeah, I try to introduce it where I can, but at the same time try not to be too preachy with it. We would call it, like with Ada Twist, it's like a secret sauce where you come for the big robots, but then we'll sneak in like a lesson about like density and like having social equality when you're not really looking. And so the kids are still having fun, but you're also learning something too.
Have you had any experiences where sort of something that was counter to your values was on the table that, sort of something that was more difficult that you were in your role and you were going to rise out, even though you weren't aligned with it, and anything like that?
Yeah, actually. So there was a character on Ada Twist, Iggy Peck, architect, streaming right now. Please tell your small children, and I don't know if everybody here's kids, and also nieces and nephews, streaming right now on Netflix. But this character, Iggy Peck, and his parents are divorced, and they have a very amicable split. And at one point, there was a question about, okay, can Iggy just like pop over to his dad's whenever, or like pop over to his mom's whenever? And everyone else came from homes where they had 2 parents, but I have a single mom. And so I was like, well, that's not really how it works. And like, oh, well, can't you just like pop over? Like, no, because you have to like set like the days, and it's awkward for the kid if it's like setting up like disrupting a schedule. And so that's why it's really good in the writer's room to have diversity in there, where like no one should look the same. There shouldn't just be all guys, it shouldn't just be all girls, it shouldn't be everyone who comes from like a very specific background at all times, because that's how you get different perspectives, and that's how I feel you get better stories too.
And so a great example. Yeah, that your perspective, sort of your lived experiences really informed what you bring to writing, which is different than what. Yeah, that's right. Other questions?
And you ran on a lot of interns. We would rather never kind of like using those content
All the time. All the time.
You have any example?
Let's see.
It's like a lot of innuendo and stuff.
Not so much innuendo. I'm always pitching like Mad Max Fury Road references, which one got stuck in for the new season that Ada Twist. When it happens, you'll know. Like we try not to sneak in anything too adult also, because the audience is more sophisticated now too, because with animation, a lot of parents now they grew up watching Ren and Stimpy, and they grew up watching like SpongeBob, so they kind of know like, okay, I know what type of joke this is and what they're trying to do. Yeah, but we try to sneak in where we can. Everyone does it. Like, if you ever watch an episode of SpongeBob and you think that's a dirty joke, it's a dirty joke. Yeah, 100%.
Questions? Yes. Oh, so, you're very successful in the industry, but in your earlier years, how did you, I guess, like handle like the rejection from, companies or like producers, when they give you that, oh, your work is good, but it's not what we're looking for. Like, how did you, I guess, deal with that? And how did that make you like more, like influence to keep going?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, I know for me, I always felt like Eminem the 8 Mile was like, if I can just rap at that one, if I could just be
Very old.
yeah. No, I'm almost 40. Okay, and if my knees hurt, okay. It'll handle all of you. But yeah, rejection is tough. Rejection is very tough. And one of the best pieces of advice I got early on was like, you can make it if you stick around. Because so many people don't stick around. We're 2 years in, 5 years in, and years in, they're like, this isn't for me. And like, it might be something where it's like, okay, maybe this isn't the path that you wanted, but if you really do want it, like, you should stick with it. I always would try to stay busy. Like, if I got a rejection letter, it would be like, okay, well, what didn't they like? Like, what can I improve? Story structure, was it humor? How can I make this better? And also I had great friends who were there to like pick me up too, where it was like, oh man, I didn't get this thing. They're like, cool, well, we'll go out for drinks right now because like you need this. So another thing I would really suggest for anyone who's getting into writing, make sure that you have a life completely removed from it as well. That will help you write better stories. It'll also keep you sane whenever like you hit like rejection or like a note or things get tough, you're on deadline. It's a great job, but it's a job and you do need to blow off steam. So having a life outside of writing, I recommend it.
And then did you experience a lot of people trying to veer you away from this career because it is sort of, difficult and it's all, where then just go get a 9 to 5, Ivory. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you keep persisting? And now you'd sort of had success and quote unquote in a more formal way. But in those earlier years, when you had all these odd jobs trying to piece this together, were people trying to steer you astray? And how did you kind of like keep focus on what you knew was your North Star?
It was funny because at those random jobs, people would like, I would have managers who would like veer me astray because I was like really good at jobs that they hated. Where it was like, oh man, I'm really great at getting yelled at from people who are in Audi Harmony who are complaining to like, oh, why are my matches ugly? And you look at their picture, it's like, well, I'm my sons. Today what I feel, like, damn, or then have you tried this? And so I would have these managers and supervisors be like, hey, you're really good at this. Like, why are you doing this writing thing? But then they would see how passionate I was about it, where like in between each call, I'm scribbling down stuff. And they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm trying to answer like this fellowship thing. I'm trying to get the script right. And once they saw that it wasn't just like a fleeting thing for me, then they were like, okay, well, I hope this works out. Like at my last day job before I went on ADA full time, I remember going up to my boss and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And they were like, swamped right now. I got this opportunity at Netflix. And he was like, go right now. Like, I've seen you've been working. I'm happy for you. We'll be fine. Just don't forget us. Yeah. Shout out to Anthony if you're watching.
No, that's really great. I think for a lot of people, especially early when you graduate, you have that struggle of family expectation or things that you think that you were supposed to do. So it's interesting since I've known you since that time, even though you did all these other random jobs, you never actually changed course, right? You knew exactly what you wanted in it and you kept finding other ways to get back to it, even though it wasn't linear and some of it was informal. You were just writing as a hobby for a lot of those years, right? Until something came up. So I think that's really a testament to if you know what it is that you want to do and right, all that, even if there's naysayers. I mean, did you have to like narrow your circle at any point to have, any haters, haters. So people who are right, maybe there's just like, do you feel like you ended up with a smaller circle of people that you trusted that really were supportive of you to help you pimp?
Not really, because the people who are in my life, they were always supportive. I feel like I really lucked out. So I'm here tonight. And yeah, because there will always be someone who says like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. Like, get a 9 to 5." But if you want it, go for it. Like, it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. And I mean, I guess I write cartoons for a living. It's still like, I'm on deadline for like writing something about like, well, actually I can't say, I dark my neck. That was a close one. But yeah, I have a cool job. Thanks.
Other questions from anyone? Should not complete UCI stories, just a wrap. What do you guys want to know about Ivory's time at UCI?
Yeah, I want to hear.
Come on in the room, guys. Be careful with the questions.
Yeah, please be careful with the questions. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I am hitched. I am taken. There's a beautiful wife right there. Yeah.
Also, you just got a lot of
We met at UCI during a summer class. We were sitting next to each other by a friend of a friend. We kept talking to each other because the class was really boring. And I was like crack joking to keep saying it, and she laughed at them. And years later, my hand in them. Yeah. Oh.
other questions. Yes.
I just wanted to ask, like, for a job like yours, are there, like, certain ways or, like, techniques you have for, like, setting a boundary in your work life and that despite with friends and, like,
Yes, very much so. I'm glad you asked that. So for me, when it's 9:30 a.m. when my day starts. Like, that's why I'm in meeting. That's why I'm writing scripts. That's why I'm like on a schedule. I have a spreadsheet of like, okay, today I'm going to do act 1 of this rewrite. And then tomorrow I'm going to do first draft of this outline. It's very, very detail oriented. As soon as 5 o'clock hits, I'm done. Okay. Like, I'm at the gym. I'm playing Elden Ring. I'm hanging out with my wife. I'm doing anything else except writing, because it's very easy to fall into a trap of like, oh man, I should keep working. Nobody cares if like you work till like 4 a.m. Especially if this stuff is bad because you work till 4 a.m. Yeah, keeping like boundaries. Like, I don't look at my email once 5 o'clock hits, and my weekend is my weekend. I take my free time very, very seriously. Occasionally you will have like you're on deadlines, so like you gotta work out like on Saturday, or I gotta push this out. But that's few and far between, because I try to be really, really efficient during that 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Before you're writing full time, though, when you were just doing these other jobs, do you have to kind of do a lot of after hours on weekends? It's for your lunch.
During my actual shift half the time, where it's like, all right, thank you for calling Harley. Stereos on the tip. Oh yeah, I can process that refund. But yeah, during that time, it was like, which was actually really helpful too, in like kind of getting that discipline also, where it's I knew, okay, well, my shift is from 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. It'll take me an hour to get home. Then I have like an hour to write this thing before I got to do this other thing before I have to go to bed. So it was like making the most out of like the time that you have. Because it's very easy to procrastinate, but once you really like hone that in, like it gets easier. It becomes, it's like going to the gym. It's like, okay, you only have an hour here at the gym. You have to kind of like sit around and do nothing. You got to try to like, do some push-ups or something. Same thing.
Yes. Hello. What was your major at UCI, and like what orientation you were part of by science anyway?
See, my major was English with a minor in sociology. which kind of helps with stories sometimes. I just knew like my counselor was like, hey, if you take the 2 more classes, you get like a minor. I was like, okay. As far as I was a part of them, I worked in Ace Court, at Sierra, Wishita, and actually we also met at the Cross Cultural Center. I was part of Reach.
It doesn't. Oh no! What is it? Is that still exist?
Oh my God.
Same thing anymore. We used to like go and do workshops for high schoolers without stereotyping. I'm not sure if it's the same. And it's like, is that your 8 mile reference? Yeah, be careful.
Yeah. Guys, my vanillas hurts, okay? Like, it'll happen to all of you too.
2 more.
Oh, and also I've worked at the UCI bookstore in work study. And also talking about like those odd jobs, my first work study, I was more or less a janitor at the machine shop. I would like single up shavings, but the guys there knew, like, I was like, oh yeah, I want to be a writer. They're like, cool, this is what we're going to do. You got to clean up here for like an hour. Your shift is 4 hours long. Do whatever you want after those 3 hours. Here's a table. I'm like, awesome. So letting people know that you want to get into writing helps tremendously. Like, especially if you get like an assistant job, even if it's something completely removed from writing, where it's like, okay, you're working for like VFX, but if they ask you like, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be a writer. They'll bookmark that. Like, one of the writers on a show I'm on right now, she worked in special effects, but their boss like, oh, I want to be a writer. So when a spot opened up on our show, they were able to tell the people like, hey, we have someone who's interested. Maybe you should check out this stuff.
Okay. What would be your dream to write on within your current genre? And what would be your dream to write in anything else but your genre?
Ooh. Well, I always tell people that Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man are my bucket list items. As far as like getting it right for like those properties, that would be pretty sick. Also, I would love to write anything for Street Fighter. I know a new movie's getting announced. I see some people are like, yeah, like these are my people. This is how I network. I find people who like Street Fighter, and I'm like, cool. We want to talk about Ryu? Let's talk about Ryu. As far as something outside of my genre, probably like a live action comedy. I'm very happy in animation. I love that medium. If I did something live action, it would either be a comedy or like, you know, the 15th Fast and Furious movie. They're going to space, y'all. It's going to be awesome.
So I feel like with a lot of undergrads, they are able to find spaces where they feel comfortable and they can express themselves. But now that you like are out of undergrad and in the industry, what did you do to, I guess, like assert yourself in spaces to, you know, like let people know, like, you're here to work, but also maybe your value and like how to translate that into your work and your.
Yeah, for me, it's really just being yourself. It's weird because like I've been to like networking events, and you can really tell, like it's really much tell like when someone's like putting on an act and when someone's like just being their authentic self. What I've found is 9 times out of 10, as long as you do that, you'll be fine. And it doesn't mean you have to be like whoa, like energy, like because some people that's just not them. If someone's like reserved and quiet, but like they're really funny, people will gravitate towards that. If they're like really kind, that's fine. Or if they're like really like sarcastic, it's cool. As long as you're being yourself, it tends to be okay. As far as like finding like a clique and everything, especially in animation, I tell people like it is not the cool kids table. Like we're all just a bunch of misfits or just a bunch of dorks and stuff like that. So if you're a dork too, these are your people essentially.
No, it's been stunk. Okay. So I just want to ask that do you really have any pain? But I don't. Like,
Oh, for real?
I graduated from UCI, PhD in neuroscience, and ended up doing acupuncture working on the nervous system. So pain is the nervous system, and then I've built the network. I have both the tomorrow alumni here. Yeah, you're welcome to visit my office. It's right here.
Yeah, we're gonna get your card later. Okay, he's like, yeah, this is the bugging me. Okay. All right, this is working out.
Thanks that they're ready.
Okay, do you mean all time or current? Okay, current. I'm obsessed with Chainsaw Man. It's awesome. I cannot wait for season 2. I spoiled myself with the manga because I'm an idiot, but I'm obsessed with it. All time, I would say Hajime no Ippo. It's an anime about boxing, and it's really, I see this guy, he's like, where did I talk like? It's an anime about boxing. It's basically the Korean movies, but if Korean was like a 17-year-old kid from Japan. But it's the exact same thing. It's awesome.
Yes. Why were you here that? What is that bad?
Yeah, thumbs down. I know this TA, like, when you feel like turn in essays, and he would write out there and be like, yes, big red lips, new model, oh, and I'm like, dude, it's my first day. Like, the guy.
That GBC really centered calling us that.
But also at the same time, it was good to get that feedback, because when you're writing, it's constant constructive criticism. And also you have to learn to not take notes personally, because the people giving the note, they're trying to make the show better in the long run. So they're not your enemy, even if like you disagree with it. Like just try to take it in stride. And also, I hope ChatGPT doesn't take my job.
No, can't judge that. I don't judge music to be funny. I don't know. I'm worried.
Like I look at that, we're like, did nobody watch Terminator 2? Like, did people not know what Skynet is anymore? Like, it starts with Alexa and then like dun 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 dun. It's like,
And the question, yeah, I was the writer in undergrad, did you ever like become friends as or do anything like in?
not really, because I wasn't really aware of it when I was an undergrad. I was very much just like in the humanities lane of like writing essays and like getting that. Looking back, I wish I would have, but like at the time, I wasn't aware. And by the time I graduated, I was like, oh, I could have done that too. That's okay though. Yeah, no, sorry.
Did you know a lot? We were pre-like. I was like, I didn't get a laptop till middle of undergrad.
No, I had
We
a
were from pre-I.
you go to big box computers, or it was like,
Facebook had just coming out.
yeah, like everyone saw MySpace and Zango was a thing. These are really old references. I'm sorry.
Do you want to share a favorite memory? UCI memory?
Favorite UCI memory.
Men or women?
Memorable memory. Okay. Let's see. Honestly, I think my favorite one was graduating, because it was really, really good.
What's the lead-in?
No, wait. Hear me out. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Okay. Stay with me. Okay. We all went at no. It was really cool because it was like a culmination of things, and it was like everyone who I was cool with was there. It was all these worlds like smashed together. Like I remember walking down, my mom's right there, and I high five her, like, well, cousins are there. I look up in the stands, and like you and my friends from like Sierra were there, and they were like singing like the Dodge Beta song as I was crossing. You had to be there. I swear it was funny. Yeah, and it was really cool too, because there was so much like hope that we all had, and we were all like, okay, this person's going to be an engineer, and this person's going to be like a doctor, this person's going to be a writer. We're all going to like crush it. And like now we are all crushing it. And yeah, I would say that's my favorite memory. Okay. Also, this one time, there were these apartments by the art.
This is up.
This is El Campo. It's in a minute.
So now we'll this up.
Okay.
The year under though.
So, you know how like when you go to the Target, there's like those giant red balls outside, like made of like cinder blocks or whatever? Mrs. Ocampo had one of those. And I think you were staying over there or something. I was
Yeah, I mean, anyways.
And we were just like goofing around because like these are like brand new to us. We're like, oh my God, the giant target ball. And we started like kicking it and standing on it and taking pictures of it. And then it started to roll. Turns out it was loose. It was not bolted down. And it was really heavy because we're like, okay, put it back, Okay. I push from here, you pull from here. Okay, get your leg on there. Nothing. There's pictures of us in my home of us like standing in front of it. It's like, and then we left it.
Now we rolled it into the bushes. We rolled it to the bushes because we let Leslie in some more state. And then the next morning, what happened?
The next morning, we hear like all these reports on like campus news of like giant cinder block rolled down the street by the arc. Giant cinder block collided with this. People inside giant cinder block, blah blah. And we're both like, Joe, we cannot. We did the bad thing. We can't tell anyone. We have to take us to our graves. Oh no!
That's sort of like also that was like at midnight on like Thursday. Because we didn't do even I don't know where she is midnight now, but we used to walk around and like. Instead of burning, we took Chick-fil-A used to be Lee sandwiches, and we used to just go sit at Lee.
Wait, is that Lee sandwiches? Why am I even here? Why did you even show up?
Oh, fam. Anything else?
Oh God!
Just. Well, this was a lot of fun. Anything else? Any other final questions? We're gonna be here out for a little bit.
Yeah, I heard it was tacos, so I'm definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ivory. This was a really fun meeting. When you asked me to moderate for you, I was like, this is wild. Are we now at a place where they invite you and talk about yourself? Because you're something and like, are we those people?
Dude, they let me back in. We're like, get out, come back. Really? Oh, no.
And I just feel like you're also just still the same person that I knew all those years ago, which is cool. It's a testament, I think, that the friends that we made here at UCI as undergrads, depending on where your lives take you, I think having this sharing experience was, you stay connected, right? And I think congratulations on all your successes.
Thank you. Congratulations to you, Dr. Brownlee.
I'm going to get that home.